All right, let's get into it. We're talking about a story of a ship trapped in solid ice, with a crew that just refused to die. People call it the greatest survival story ever told, and honestly, they're not wrong. Just try to put yourself there for a second. It's 1915, you're in Antarctica, literally thousands of kilometers from the nearest living soul. You've been stuck for months, and then you hear it, this deafening crack from below your feet. That's the sound of the ice crushing your only way home. So, this is the incredible story of 28 men, and their leader, the one and only Sir Ernest Shackleton, and how they managed to survive for 2 whole years at the absolute edge of the world. So, the big question is, how? How did every single one of them make it out alive? Well, to get that answer, you gotta go back to the beginning. We need to understand the crazy, impossible dream that got them there in the first place. Okay, so let's talk about the dream. This wasn't just any trip. This was the Imperial Transantarctic Expedition. And its goal? Oh, it was just one of the most audacious things anyone had ever tried to do. They wanted to complete the last great journey left on our planet. See, Shackleton was already a famous explorer. He'd gotten super close to the South Pole before, but this time, he wanted to conquer the entire continent. And for a mission this insane, you can't just take anybody. You need a special kind of crew. So check out the job ad he supposedly placed in a London paper. It is brutally honest. We're talking no glamour, no promises of fame or fortune. It was just a straight-up call for the toughest, most adventurous people he could find. And you know what's wild? 27 guys actually answered the call. They signed up and joined Shackleton on this specially built ship, a ship with a name that would go down in history, the Endurance. So, on August 8th, 1914, they're off. They set sail from England full of hope. But as they got closer to Antarctica, that big, grand dream started turning into a complete and total nightmare. And it all went wrong so fast. I mean, think about this. After all those months at sea, they were just 1 day away from landing. 1 day. And that's when the Weddell Sea just closed in around them. The pack ice trapped them. Suddenly, the Endurance wasn't a ship anymore. It was a prison. For 9 months, 9 agonizing months, the crew did everything they could. They literally tried to saw a path through the ice. But it was no use. The pressure was just immense, relentless. And finally, Shackleton had to make the call nobody wanted to hear. Abandon ship. And just like that, it was over. The 28 men, along with their 50 sled dogs, were stranded. Literally just standing on a floating chunk of ice, watching their only home, their only link to civilization, get crushed to pieces and sink into the frozen ocean. So the mission to cross Antarctica, that was dead. The new mission was much, much simpler and a whole lot harder. Just survive. So for 6 more brutal months, they just drifted on the ice. We're talking starvation, frostbite. They even had to make the heartbreaking choice to kill their dogs for food. Eventually, the ice floe broke up, and they had to jump into these tiny lifeboats. They finally hit solid ground for the first time in 497 days. But it wasn't a rescue, not even close. In this place, Elephant Island, it was just a barren rock. Nobody was sailing past here. Nobody was coming for them. They were completely, utterly alone. And that is when Shackleton came up with the biggest, most insane gamble of his entire life. The plan was, well, it was basically a suicide mission. He and 5 other guys were going to take a tiny 22-foot open lifeboat and sail it 1,300 kilometers across the most dangerous ocean on the planet. Their goal? A tiny whaling station on an island called South Georgia. And what they were sailing into, it's hard to even describe. Hurricane-force winds, waves as tall as buildings, literally. Constant freezing spray turning everything to ice. And they were navigating with just the sun and the stars, if they were lucky enough to see them. This journey should have been impossible, period. And yet, somehow, they did it, against all odds. After 16 days of pure hell at sea, they saw land. They'd actually made it to South Georgia Island. But wait, the ordeal wasn't over. Not by a long shot. They'd survived the ocean, sure, but they landed on the wrong side of the island. And what stood between them and help? Oh, just a 4,000-foot-high glacier-covered mountain range that no one, and I mean no one, had ever crossed. Completely exhausted, beyond the point of breaking, Shackleton and two of his men just went for it. They crossed those mountains in a single 36-hour nonstop trek. When they finally stumbled into that whaling station, they looked like ghosts. But Shackleton had only one thing on his mind: the 22 men he'd left behind, the men he promised he'd come back for. And he did not give up. He tried to get a rescue ship and was forced back by the ice. Tried again, forced back again. A third time, same story. But on the fourth attempt, he finally broke through. On August 30th, 1916, more than 2 years after they left England, Shackleton's ship appeared on the horizon at Elephant Island. So, remember that original mission, the big transcontinental expedition? This is how many kilometers of Antarctica they actually crossed. 0. Not a single one. And this number? This is the number of men who made it home alive. 28. Every single one. So yeah, by its original goal, the expedition was a total failure. But it became legendary for something else entirely: Shackleton's leadership. The name of the ship was Endurance, and that's what this story is about. Not about conquering land, but about the triumph of the human spirit. He didn't conquer a continent, no. He conquered despair. It really makes you ask, what's the true measure of success? You know, in 2022, they actually found the wreck of the Endurance. It's sitting there, perfectly preserved, 3,000 meters under the ice. It's this silent monument, not to a failure, but to what might just be the greatest success story ever told.